Ladies and gentlemen, Rick Bayless. How are you? Thank you so much for coming. Wow. Not bad.
Not bad. I'm happy. I feel welcome.
So I went with that clip.
It doesn't always happen like that.
No. I went with that clip, obviously, because it's a good representation of the show you do, but also because of the new restaurant that you have opening soon. Can you tell us a little about? Well, I keep checking the blog.
Actually, I said exactly that same thing this afternoon. Soon. Soon. We hope soon. It's all in the hands of the city of Chicago.
So 2016.
Right. Something like
right
that.
Right after the Olympics blow out of town.
They tell us that at some point they're going to come and give us our final inspection and give us our license, but they
Wait a
can't
minute, that's
tell
what it
exactly.
is? Just the inspection?
Yes. We're
If you
almost
can't get an
completely
inspection.
ready, but then they said that it will take them 1 to 2, maybe 3 weeks to process all the paperwork to allow us to open. So anyway, that's where
do
we
they
are.
know there's a recession going on? They realize that people need. Well, tell us a little bit about the restaurant.
Okay, Xoco is, well, it was inspired by the fact that I love this one place in Mexico City more than anything else, I think. And anybody that's ever been to Churreria El Moro in downtown Mexico City will know that this place it's 7 days a week, 365 days a year. They only serve hot chocolate and churros. The fried dough things that I just love so much. So they make these things that are like absolutely ethereal. You bite into them or you dunk them into your hot chocolate, and it's absolutely stunningly beautiful stuff. And I said, I've got to be able to bring some experience like this back to Chicago. So I learned how to make the churros. But then I wanted the chocolate to be something that I'd experienced in Oaxaca, which is like in the downtown market, there's a section of the market that is devoted to nothing but grinding cacao beans into the paste that they use then to make the hot chocolate. And it tastes unlike any other chocolate you've had because it's fresh ground chocolate is something that's just not part of our experiences. So when you taste hot chocolate made from that, it's got all these really bright flavors to it. And we don't think of chocolate as having bright flavors. So I said, I want to add that to my thing. And then I was sitting in a market stall one time eating this big bowl of sort of meal in a bowl soup. They call them caldos. And I just thought, oh gosh, this is just like the perfect supper food. You know, it's just like you don't want to eat too much. You want to have something that's simple, really good, deep, rich flavors. And I thought, couldn't we bring that back to Chicago? And then
That's what Potbelly's doing now with their bigger sandwiches.
They're
doing the same similar type of thing.
Well, and then I thought about, well, not eating at Potbelly's, but eating in a market stall in Mexico that does these really big tortas, and there's one in Guadalajara that does these fabulous tortas. They call them tortas ahogadas, and it's like a carnitas in a bread, and then they douse the whole thing with this tomatoey broth, and then this really hot sauce that they put over the top of the whole thing. The torta ahogada is it's a transformative experience, especially if you are not used to the heat levels that some people in Guadalajara like. And so they'll kind of ask you, do you want it fully ahogada or medio ahogada? And if you're smart, you'll choose medio the first time around because it can just be blazing hot right in your face. But I thought, I got to bring that intensity or the possibility of that intensity to some of the simple offerings in Chicago. So we put it all together in one place, and that's what we're offering.
You've talked about street food in Mexico not just being a bite on the corner, but the cornerstone of the cuisine.
It is in a way. It's flavored a little bit differently than what Grandma would make for Sunday afternoon dinner, that's for sure. But it's the bright flavors, it's the bold flavors, and it's real simple. And in some ways, having eaten street food, I'm wild about street food. So wherever I go in the world, I want to eat the street food. And I say I would hold Mexico's street food up with all of them in the world. It's got this incredibly earthy beauty to it. When you eat a corn tortilla with a piece of seared steak that's all chopped up, a little caramelized onion, and one of those salsas on the top, I mean, there is nothing better than that. And I would hold that up with any kind of street food anywhere in the world, and I think that we're going to try to capture some of that in Xoco. And we're not doing a taqueria. Okay, so first of all, everybody has to realize we are not doing a taqueria, because everybody goes, oh, you're going to do a quick service place. This is the Bayless Taqueria. And I thought that was too easy, because there's so many really cool things to eat in Mexico. So why just limit yourself to what everybody expects? So we're not doing any tacos in there at all.
Huh.
So we're doing the churros and the chocolate. We're grinding the chocolate from scratch. We're doing all different kinds of the tortas, the ones that are done on the griddle. We have a big wood-burning oven in there. So we're going to be doing tortas in a wood-burning oven. We're going to be doing the caldos in the evening for people that want to have a nice meal in a bowl. So we got a lot of...
Well, let's go all the way back to the beginning. When you initially went to Mexico, I mean, you had been before, but when you went, you didn't go to become a chef, you went to study. How did it morph into becoming a cookbook author, a restaurant owner, a chef?
You see, I'm fourth generation in a family of restaurant people, and I
Okay.
grew up my entire family was in the restaurant business. Aunts, uncles, grandparents, everybody. So for me, to go into the restaurant business would have been sort of the expected next step, because I was the kid that liked to cook. And I worked in my parents' restaurant from the time that I was really little. And then I decided that the next step was going to be for me to inherit my parents' restaurant, which was a barbecue restaurant in Oklahoma City. And I wanted to do something more than that restaurant. So I just decided that I was going to go off and study. I was studying Latin American culture. I fell in love with Mexico, so I said, I'm going to just study Latin American culture. So I went to Mexico and then ended up studying anthropology, going for a PhD in anthropology. And I all of a sudden decided, while I was working on my dissertation for my PhD, that I was spending way more time thinking about what I was going to make for dinner than what I was what I was supposed to be doing. I was like one of those seminal moments when you wake up and you go, I am really going down the wrong path here. And we had a little group of people in my department that loved to cook. And we would spend like days working on menus and invite everybody over and all that sort of stuff. And I said, this is really what I want to do with my life. So I took the year off from graduate school that turned into a lifetime. And I decided to go to Mexico. And then what I decided to do is take all my knowledge that I had learned in graduate school about anthropology and that sort of thing and turn it into a sort of culinary approach to, well, Mexico is one of those cool places that everything that they eat has great cultural roots. It tells a story. You can sit down in practically any place in Mexico and you can see the whole history of Mexico on one plate. And that I wanted to capture. So I went to Mexico with my wife, and we lived there for almost 6 years and just studied and learned about the food and the regional cooking, learned from, you can't go to cooking school, really. Well, you can go to cooking school in Mexico now, but they still don't teach the real stuff. If you want to learn it, you got to go hang out in the markets. And that's when I really got into market food and street food, was because I loved listening to the market vendors tell me how to make dishes, or sometimes because it's like right there in front of you. They'll go buy ingredients and they'll come back and they'll say, this is the way you make this dish. One experience, probably the most sophisticated dish in all of Mexican repertoire is chiles en nogada, and they make it for Mexican Independence Day, and it's stuffed poblano chilies with this shredded pork filling that's got all kinds of fruit in it that's in season in September, and then they make this walnut sauce, and it's made with a very special walnut just pulled off the tree. They pull that little, you probably didn't even know you could take that little brown skin off the walnut, but if you pick it and take it off right away, you can pull it off. So this market vendor, now remember, this is like the most rustic place in the world to cook. This market vendor, I was talking to her about chiles en nogada, and she goes, well, you want to learn how to make it? And I'm in this little crazy little place that's got one burner. And I said, I'd love to. So she writes out all these ingredients. She hands it to her daughter, says, run over and buy this stuff. She came back and she made chiles en nogada that was like the most stunning chiles en nogada that I'd ever tasted. And it was made right there in a market stall. She showed me how to peel the walnuts, the whole shebang for this beautiful, creamy white walnut sauce.
this all sounds so delicious, and you know so much. What do you feel when you see a sign that says burritos the size of your head?
I actually, for one episode of Mexico, One Plate at a Time, I actually started the show in front of that sign. It's one of my favorite signs in the whole wide world. I said, this is what's wrong with our perception of Mexican food. Burritos is big. But the problem was, we couldn't get I was eating one of those burritos as big as your head during this scene, and they kept having technical problems. So I ended up eating about 1.5 of those burritos before we got done. That was a low point in my career.